Hi there and welcome to this short webinar on getting started with Connect Interactive. My name's Sue. I'm going to take you through just the basics of Connect Interactive. Before we start, I'm using the workbook as a guide to take you through this to give you the basic tools. And this is your Connect homepage, so I'm assuming that you can log in. This area here is the area that we're going to focus on, which is Connect Interactive. And I'm going to look at the subject and the student in this one. For more detailed Connect Interactive tools, go to the Advanced Connect, and I will show you the strategic and the monitoring area. So this is just to get you started, and by the way, you may not have the data management or the reports area. Those are administration areas, so don't worry about those. And if you're interested in the methodology sitting behind the scenes, then go to the Alps guide. You want the Wales and Northern Ireland one because that doesn't have the 9:1 English GCSEs in it. The knowledge base is accessible there or via this little help button which follows you through Connect. Just pop in which article you're interested in, just pop in a tagline, and what will happen is it will bring up what's in our knowledge base support area for you to have a look at. There's lots of articles and some videos to guide you through Connect Interactive. Okay, right, let's get started. So I'm on the workbook and I'm going into the subject area. Now I've got a 4-year trend coming up that actually finishes with last summer's outcomes. Don't worry too much about that. I'm recording this for you just before the August results day this year, so the principles are exactly the same. I'm just going to turn off Key Stage 4. I've got some BTECs in here, but I'm just going to make it really simple. Sorry, BTECers, but I'm turning those off so that I've just got A level. The principles, as I say, are exactly the same. Now, whether you're in exam mode or whether you're in monitoring mode, again, same tools, same features. But just to give you a flavour, this area here allows you to change. So these are my exam years here, but I also have some monitoring data in there. So you can select any 4 monitoring points or up to 4 monitoring points, or I can do a bit of mix and match, so I can have some exams and some monitoring sitting next to each other. Okay, so that's how you change what we call the grade point. Oops, I didn't mean to apply that. I'm just going to go back to there and bring up the 4-year trend again. There we go. Okay, few filters, big subjects to small subjects, grades, red grades, blue grades. I'm going to filter it by entries. So I'm going to bring the big entries up to the top. And you can see that there are various different patterns across the 4 years in terms of how you're doing. Can I just put a plea out that you, this number here, the score, is actually really important. So don't just focus on the grade. The score tells you how close or how big the gap is between one grade point and the next. So 0.2 is a grade per student. So therefore, if that score is changing dramatically, then a lot of your students are changing their sort of the average grade of a student is changing quite dramatically. Let me explain that a little bit better. So for example, if you look at business studies there, which is 1.19 4 years ago, so let's round that to 1.2, and now it's not 1.05. So there's a if we round that to 1, there's a 0.2 of a difference, actually a 0.15 of a difference between the two. So if it was a 0.2 difference, it means that students were performing 1 grade higher 4 years ago. As it is, it's 0.15. So in other words, they were doing 3/4 of a grade better on average 4 years ago. Hope that makes sense. Okay, so that's your trend. If you have some teaching sets in there, there's a little button there that just you click and up come your teaching sets. So you can just see how each teaching set was doing against the subject overview. I'll just take those off. You can also, by the way, print and export to Excel and export to PDFs up there too. Let's look at mathematics. So I'm going to click on maths to go in. So I'm now on part 3 of the workbook. This is my subject page. I can see my 3 teaching sets, which in table form are there. So I can see a 7, a 5 and a 5. If I want to look at my teaching sets in more detail, I can click on there. And that will give me my teaching set information. Just 1 year, obviously, because it would be a different group in previous years. To get back to my main overview, I can click on that breadcrumb or on the A Maths. So let's have a look at what the table shows. So I've got a gender breakdown here. So I can see a gender split, which there isn't very much of. The scores are fairly close together, 0.06, which is a quarter of a grade different, which is fairly negligible. Maths was in a poor state there, but they've pulled themselves out of it. It is still a grade 6, so it's not far off a 7, so you wouldn't want that to slip any further. You've got disadvantage there, but I suspect the comparisons area will be of more use to you, and I will show you that when we go into the student tab. This is your overall thermometer then, which gives you your overall grade. I can click and drag that up to a grade 3, and it will tell me that 14 students needed to have improved by a grade in order to get red overall for maths. So that's quite a powerful tool. If this is monitoring, then these students are right in front of you right now. So 14 grades, you're then looking at, okay, who are these key students where I can get 14 grades and move us to a grade 3. So that's a nice little nifty tool. Right, let's head into the student tab then. So you've got all of your students for maths, teaching set, and some various different details, prior attainment. I'm going to just filter on prior achievement so it brings your highest to the top. Minimum expected grade and the grade that you either predicted as a monitoring grade or the grade that they got. Okay, so let's do a couple of bits and bobs here. So the first thing is I'm going to click on the what if. So I'm now on number 4 here, I think, in the workbook. 2 things happen. I've got 2 parts to my thermometer and a what if grade down here. I can do the same drag and drop that I did 14 grade C on the other one, or I can start to look at who the students are that I might have made a difference to, or as I say, if it's monitoring, who might be making a difference. So let me just scroll down and just say, by the time I get to these B grades, there's a B stroke C megs here, and there's quite a few students who are not getting that B or a C. So what if I was to just focus my priorities on modelling B grade answers and getting all the students who should have gotten Bs to B grades? Okay, so let's start here. I know there's a student up here, but let's start here. B, there's a D, B. So hopefully you can see on the thermometer that the right hand button is heading up the thermometer there. Oops, just overdoing that one. And basically what's that's showing me then, sorry, if I just look at my B grade students and get them all B grades, then that's my 14 grades. So tomorrow morning, if this is monitoring, tomorrow morning I could just say, right, okay, I'm going to focus on B grades and getting those students to that to that B grade. So it's quite a powerful tool, that little what if analysis, what if grade. But if you want to reset it, just pop that reset button on here. Now, let's do some comparisons. So if you're, I've just missed out number 5. If you want to see an individual student and their card, let's pick this one. So this student got an, I think, an E grade for me, and I want to know what they did across their other subjects. So they didn't get their megs in biology and computer science, but they did better than they did for me. So I've got an idea of what they're doing across the board. I can also pop back to their AS grades. They got an E for me there. And their GCSEs, if these are in your system, which they potentially may not be, but certainly A-level and AS. Okay, so let's do some comparisons. So I'm going on to number 6. So comparisons are over here. I'm going to edit. There's 3 different comparisons. There's some quick comparisons: gender, ethnicity, disadvantage. We'll come back to that student performance group in the second section. But this, I've got a new to 6. That's my custom column. So if you want to add any custom columns, your data manager has to do that. But I've just added internal and external students. I'm just going to apply those so that I can see how they've done, and my external students not doing quite so well as my internals. Again, I can do the old pull it up and see there are 11 students, 11 grades away from being equivalent to that internal grade 3. So it's my external students in maths that I'm concerned about. I can put the what if tool on and do that kind of analysis. If I want to just get a little bit more information, I'm going to reset that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on a custom group, okay? So what if I want to have a look at my external boys, okay? So I'm going to add new to 6th external. And then I'm going to add an additional comparison of male add. Okay, and I can add another group if I wanted to. For example, if I want to do my external girls, I can do exactly the same thing. External, and this time female, add. So I've got 2 comparison groups, apply those, and I should be able to see whether or not I've got there. So not much of a muchness, really. So we've got 2 different scores that are quite far down the thermometer, not really telling me that there's a big gap. It's pretty much all my externals, but just giving you a feel for how you can add layers to your custom groups. Okay, the third and final bit of the the comparison is this ad hoc. So turning on that turns everybody orange. And what I can now do, I'm going to filter by prior attainment here. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to isolate my students who potentially might have been sick for the whole year. They might have had a lot of absence, and therefore their progress was kind of out of their hands and out of mine. So this student here, for example, I'm going to click on the orange and turn them green. Now, they haven't done very well, but what I'm seeing is my orange group now without them in it, and what effect that they've had on my overall performance indicator. So it has had 1 whole grade, ALPS grade, of a difference. If I continue that trend, I'm just picking on some poor people here and turning them green if they've done particularly poorly in the summer. Again, there we go. So just these 3 students then, and I'm bordering on a 4. So ALPS should never be an accountability tool, and it's a school improvement tool. And so therefore, this just helps you to get some feel for the students that weren't sitting in front of you. There's not an awful lot you can do about those students. They all have their own problems and stories, but it might just be that when you're sitting with your line manager, you can actually have some constructive conversations around the impact of maybe taking them out. Okay, the last section I'm going to show you is the student analysis. So I just went home there and I'm going to student. The monitoring and the strategic is covered in the advanced webinar. So clicking on student analysis gets me to this page where I've got my students and their subjects. So I can see how they've done across the board. Red means that they're on or above MEG. Pink means that they're the lower C of 2 split megs. Black is 1 below and blue's 2 below. So if I wanted to isolate my subject, let's say I'm a geographer, I can click and drag, and then I've got my 5 geography students sitting out, and I can quite clearly see they are not doing as well in my subject as they're doing in others. So I might be a little bit concerned about that and might need to do some intervention. To remove that then, click and drag. This time on the comparison quick groups, I've got student performance groups. So I've got various different categories here that I can look at holistically to see how they're doing across the board. So if I apply this I should get some lists. Okay, so students above target in all subjects, they've got 36. Well done, keep going, great. If this is monitoring, if this is exams, those might be some of your prize winners if you have a prize evening. But below target in all, those students are probably not news to you. I would imagine that you've got them on support plans already, or had them on support plans if you're looking at exam results. And so those are your key students. And they'll all have their own stories behind them, as I say. The ones where you've got below target in any subject, you would be hoping that individual subject areas would be taking charge of having supportive conversations with students to make sure that in those 79 cases that those students are being supported and inspired to do as well in history there, for example, as in the other two. Okay, that's all I'm going to do in this webinar. As I say, the advanced webinar's got more information on monitoring accuracy, and I hope that was instructive. And please do use the knowledge base for any additional short videos. Thanks very much for listening.